Hello, and welcome back to Him Reads as we continue with Misery. Chapter 8. The following morning, Paul was sitting up in bed, propped on a pile of pillows, drinking a cup of coffee, and eyeing those marks on the side of the door with the guilty eye of a murderer who had seen some bloody item of clothing on which he somehow neglected to dispose. Suddenly, Annie came rushing into her room, her eyes wide and bulging. She held a dust cloth in one hand. In the other, incredibly, she held a pair of handcuffs. What? It was all he had time for. She seized him with panic and strain and pulled him on an upright sitting position. Pain, the worst in days, bellowed through his legs and he screamed. The coffee cup flew out of his hand and shattered on the floor. Things keep breaking in here, he thought, and then she saw the marks, of course, probably a long time ago. That was the only way he could account for this bizarre behavior. She had seen the marks after all. And this was the beginning of some new and spectacular punishment. "Shut up, stupid," she hissed, and then his hands were pinned behind him, and just as he heard the clink of the handcuffs, he also heard a car turning in the driveway. He opened his mouth, meaning to speak or perhaps scream again, and she stuffed the rag into it before he could either. There was some ghastly dead taste on the rag. Pledge, he supposed, or in dust or something like that. "Make no sound," she said, leaning over him with one hand on either side of his head, strands of hair tickling his cheeks and forehead. "I warn you, Paul, if whoever that hears something, or even if I hear something and think he might have heard something, I will kill him or them, then you, then myself." She stood up. Her eyes were bulging. There was some sweat on her face and dry egg yolk on her lips. "Remember, Paul." He was nodding, but she didn't see. She was already running out. An old but well-preserved Chevy Bel Air had pulled up behind Annie's Cherokee. Paul heard a door open somewhere off in the parlor and bang shut. It gave off the oddly interesting squeak. The tone was one of the closer where she kept her outdoor stuff. The man getting out of the car was old and well-preserved as the car itself. A Colorado type, if Paul had ever seen one. He looked 65, but might be 80. He might be the senior partner of a law firm, the semi-retired patriarch of a construction company, but more likely a rancher or a realtor. He would be a Republican of the sort who would put a bumper sticker on his car. They would put a pair of pointy Italian shoes on his feet. He must be some sort of town official and here on town business, because it was only on town business that a man like this and a reclusive woman like Annie Wilkes would have occasion to meet people. Paul watched her hasten down on the walk to the driveway, intent on meeting but intercepting him. Here was something like much earlier fantasy come true. Not a cop, but someone in authority. Authority had arrived at Annie's, and its arrival here nothing could do but shorten his own life. Why not invite him in, Annie? He thought, trying not to choke on the dusty rag. Why not invite him, show him your African bird? Oh no, she could do no more invite Mr. Rocky Mountain businessman, in that she would drive Paul to Stapleton International and put a first-class ticket back in New York in his hand. She was talking before she reached him, the breath plummeted out of her mouth in shapes like cartoon balloons with no words written inside them. He held out a hand dressed in a narrowly elegant black leather glove. She looked at it briefly, contemptuously, and then began to shake a finger in his face. More of those empty white balloons puffing from her mouth. She fingered struggling in her coat and stopped shaking her finger long enough to make the zipper up. He reached into the pocket of his top coat and brought out a sheet of paper. He held it out to her almost apologetically. Although Paul had no way of knowing exactly what it was, he was sure that Annie had an adjective for it. Cock-a-doodle, maybe. She led him along the driveway, still talking. They passed beyond his sight line. He could see their shadows lying like construction paper cutouts on the snow, but that was all. She had done it on purpose, he realized dully. If he, Paul, couldn't see them, there was no chance that Mr. Rancho Grande might look through the guest room and see him. The shadow remained on the melting snowpack of Annie's driveway for about 5 minutes. Once Paul had actually heard Annie's voice raised in an angry, hectoring shout, there was a long 5 minutes for Paul. His shoulder ached. He found he couldn't move to ease the ache. After cuffing his hand together. She had somehow bound them on the bedstead. But the dust cloth in his mouth was worse. The stink of the furniture polish was making his head ache. He was growing steadily more nauseated. He concentrated grimly on controlling it. He had no interest in choking to death, his windpipe full of vomit, while Annie argued with an elderly town official who got his hair trimmed once a week at the local tonsorial emporium and probably wore rubbers over his black Oxfords all winter long. Cold, sick sweat had broken on his forehead by the time they reappeared. Now Annie was holding the paper. She followed Mr. Rancho Grande, shaking her finger at his back, those empty cartoon balls issuing from the mouth. Mr. Rancho Grande would not look to her. His face was carefully blank. Only his lips, pressed together so tightly that they almost disappeared, gave away some inward expression. Angered, perhaps. Distaste, yes, that was probably closer. You think she's crazy, you and all your poker cronies, who probably control his whole minor league ballpark of a town, probably played a hand of lowball or something to see who got this shit detail. Now, no one likes to bring bad news to crazy people, but Mr. Rancho Grande, you know how batshit crazy she really is. If I don't think you turned your back on her like that. He got into Bel Air. He closed the door. Now that she stood inside the car, shaking her finger at his closed window, and again Paul dimming her voice. Think you are so smart. The Bel Air began to back slowly on the driveway. Mr. Rancho Grande was ostentatiously not looking at Andy, whose teeth were barred. Louder still. You think you're such a great big wheel. Suddenly she kicked the front bumper of Mr. Rancho Grande's car, kicked it hard enough to knock paste chunks of snow out the wheels. The old guy had been looking over his shoulder, guiding his car down the driveway. Now he looked back at her, starting out of the careful neutrality he had maintained all through the visit. Well, I'll tell you something, you dirty bird. Little dogs go to the bathroom all over the big wheels. What do you think of that, huh? Whatever he thought of it, Mr. Rancho Grande was not going to give Andy the satisfaction of seeing it. The neutral expression dropped on his face again like the visor on a suit of armor. He backed out of Paul's sight. She stood there for a moment, hands fisted on hips, then stalked back to the house. He heard the kitchen door open and explode shut. Well, he's gone, Paul thought. Mr. Rancho Grande is gone, but I'm here. Oh, yes, I'm here. And I'm going to stop it there. Thanks for listening.